Well, good morning, everybody. Off vacation now and heading on to work in Big Blue. I don't do a lot of videos on this car. It's not that I don't like the car. Well, I like the car. It's all right. It's just, this is not my main car. This is basically just a secondary car, but it's good for commuting. Now, this is a viewer requested video. Someone who was trying to get a better explanation of the EV button on this car. This car's EV button, since it's a plug-in hybrid, the EV button on this car is significantly more realistic on this car. There are generally three settings, which is an automatic setting. There is an EV setting, and then there's like the reserve EV setting. Now, automatic just means the car will use all the battery and jump the car from hybrid mode, standard hybrid mode to full EV, and use all the battery up as it sees fit. It'll make its own decisions on when it's the best time, most efficient time to use the battery, and it'll use it all up until it's all totally wiped out, and then it'll save that last 5% that it'll use for hybrid mode. The second one obviously is self-explanatory, EV. You put it in EV and the car will drive off its main battery, which is about 95% capacity of its battery, before going into hybrid mode. In that mode, it'll drive in pure electric vehicle mode. It'll basically be an electric vehicle. That's barring certain things like the engine has to warm up for some reason, like it's very cold outside, or you're using the heat, or something that involves using the engine, that really needs the engine for some reason. But most of the time, you put it in EV, it runs an EV. And that's good for around town and so forth. Then there is the hold EV button. When you switch hold EV, basically what it does is it puts the car purely into a hybrid mode, and it saves up to 95% of the battery. That other 5% is part of this hybrid design, so you can't save 100% of the battery. That's just the way it is. You have to save about only 95% maximum. You'll do that right at the very beginning. What that does, basically, you drive in hybrid mode where you'll get maybe 42 miles a gallon depending on where you're driving. And it'll never go, it'll jump into electric mode, but it'll only be as it is in a normal hybrid car. It'll pop back and forth, won't do long amounts in electric and so forth. That's not your most efficient, but that's one way of doing it. Now, most people are just going to drive in standard, regular automatics, where the car makes the decision for you. Works pretty well, but it's not always the best choice. Now, a lot of people, if you plug in your car every night, which I do, if you're just going to drive around town, a lot of people just go into EV mode. They'll choose EV mode, and EV mode is really, really good for, just driving around town. It saves you a lot of gas, and basically, you have up to a 25-mile range, but you're not really going to get it in the city because you're constantly stop and go, and that puts, more, it takes a lot more power to get started up from speed. But it's good for, if you got to do like 10 miles worth of chores in the city, just drive around, go to the grocery store, drive down, go to the bank, etc., and then go home. Basically, that's good to use your EV mode. You're not using any gasoline. Now, if, say, you're, it's a, as I said, mostly automatic. So EV, I've already told you what to do. An automatic is what I would tell you to do. Why would you want to save the EV mode? This is going to work best for people who really know how their car works and also know their route and what the advantage is, when the car is going to get the most distance out of its electric battery versus when just going hybrid makes the most sense. No problem. Nice guy crossing the street, and he saw that I was slowing down. He didn't have to speed up, so he gave me the peace sign. Isn't it nice when humans actually get along? Doesn't happen often. With me, I have an actual, I've picked routes that are very good for hybrid vehicles. The best driving for most hybrid vehicles are like standard, like a country road where you go 45, 50 miles per hour the whole way, basically open country, The flatter, the better, obviously. But if it's not flat, what can you do, right? So that's, electric vehicles just tend to do best at 50 and 55 miles per hour. That's just really, the 50 miles per hour is really its sweet spot. Now, the first leg of my journey to work is a stretch of road that runs between 35 and 50 miles per hour, and it's it's rolling hills and mostly a lot of flat areas, and I chose it specifically. So what I do when I start my car, if I go normal, let's say during the summertime, if I go into normal mode and I let the car choose, my drive, my overall average, if I run in normal mode in this car during the summer months, and we're talking 70s, 75, 80 degrees outside, just driving normal to work and back for a full tank is about 52 to 55 miles to the gallon average for the tank, which is nothing to sneeze at. That's very good. I was not impressed with that. I said, I got an electric vehicle. I should be able to get better than that. I thought I figured if I tinkered, I'd do better. What I have found, depending on the expressway that you do, that the best time to use your EV mode if you're on a longer distance trip, if you can help it, especially if it's a mixed trip, is to use it on the expressway. You tend to get the most miles out of it as long as it's not like a uphill drudge the whole time in the expressway. So for me, my first half of my trip is rolling hills, like country roads. That's about 15 miles of country roads. In that country roads, it's a lot of flat areas, a little bit up and down, but not much. So I get pretty good gas mileage. So whatever the best for the hybrid is, I'm going to get it on that road. So I see no reason to use up the electric battery for that. So by timing it, I do that. The moment I get on my expressway and I'm doing my 25 mile drive for the expressway, I think it's like 25, maybe 28 miles. I put it into EV mode and I let the car go all electric there. The car is good up to, I believe, 85 miles per hour in electric. So as long as you don't drive like a lunatic. I drive 65, 70, basically. Mostly 65. That's the speed limit on this particular stretch of highway. By doing that during the summer, I can literally I can go the whole way, about 28 miles, on what's basically, it's the distance it says maximum is about 22 miles after using up a little bit during the hybrid mode while I'm driving on the rolling hills, which I'm pulling onto right now. What I end up finding is I'll have 22 miles, it says there, but I'll make the whole 28 mile journey most of the time, and I'll find out I'll make it all the way to my work and I'll still have 1 to 3 miles left, which means basically I've got 28, 29 miles out of what's maximum range is average 26 miles. Now you're considering good weather, cars in good order, and that's going to the main mall from the highway where I drive. Excuse me, I just woke up. That gives you a massive amount of distance in EV mode. And there you're using the best out of your EV mode right there. By following that, and considering on my drive back, I have no way to charge it at work. My drive back is always hybrid, all hybrid. And the hybrid on this car is really touch and go. It's about, you can get 42, 44 miles a gallon, usually about 42, between 38 and 42, depending on the expressway and so forth. The whole drive back is all in hybrid, so I got no electric on my way back. I still average on a tank of gas nearly 65 miles to the gallon overall on this car. So if you learn how to use your electric system, and you choose to use your EV at the right modes, you can get an extremely high gas mileage on this car overall. Now you got to keep in mind, most of my driving is just to work and back. Around town, I don't do a lot of around town. Most of the time when I'm home, I'm home. I shop. Obviously, I have to shop to eat. I don't look like I miss a meal, do I? But if you plan your drives, if you have a good route for your drives, basically you get extremely high gas mileage, and using that EV button down there will definitely help you with that. It's definitely a plus if you choose to use it the way you use it. Now, if you're driving, obviously, if you're doing just, city driving, you're doing small city drives and so forth, by all means, use as much electric as you can, dude. Basically, you know, you got people who can go thousands of miles on this car without using up the gas tank, because most of their little drives are you know, maybe they do 15 miles maximum per day, driving around the city, going shopping or doing whatever chores and stuff, and the rest of the day, it's, you know, nothing else. So, basically, if you're driving around the city for a little while, you know, you're just doing your chores, you know, run an EV mode. Choose, excuse me, choose EV, and that'll, boy, I forgot to turn this off, and that will give you, you know, pure EV mode. If you got like a commute like I do, try to figure out the most fuel efficient way to get to your commute. Obviously, the flatter the better. And I find that if you have a split on your commute between, say, a country road, a road that goes 45, 50 miles per hour most of the time, not that much stop and go, and an expressway, it's my recommendation is you save your electric for the expressway part and use it up on the expressway. Assuming your expressway isn't all uphill, or massively uphill. And put the car in hybrid for the 45, 50 mile per hour road with little stops. You'll probably get the best overall fuel mileage that way. So that's generally the easiest way I try to explain how that EV button works. Works very well in this car. And as I said, I average, many tanks of gas during the summer. I was averaging 63 to 65 miles to the gallon. And I actually have video to show you proving it. Sometimes it was as low as 59 to 61. And that would depend on multiple issues, you know, whether I forgot to press the damn button, which happens sometimes. Sometimes I'm driving and go, oh shit, and I have to hit it again. I mean, you can press it at any time and change it to save your EV mode, but if you've been driving for like 10 minutes, it'll probably only save about 89% of your electric mode, because it has to save at least 5% for the hybrid mode. So whatever percentage it's used of its battery, it's going to take a chunk of 5% and save it for its hybrid mode. So I hope that stuff made sense. I'm not really good at explaining these type of things, but that's how I get the best gas mileage out of this car, and that's how that EV button works. So I hope for the viewer who asked that question in the comments, I actually explained it in the comments, but I thought I'd make a video on it since I don't really make many videos on a Ford, and I'm sorry, guys. There's not much I can do with the Ford, and there's not much to say unless there's an issue, or I've done some kind of grandpa driving like I did at Kentucky Fried Chicken and scraped my frickin' wheel. God, that pisses me off. I hate it when I do grandpa things. Yeah, I'm getting into grandpa mode. Look at his beard. So that's just the best way for me to explain it. I hope it helps the viewer who asked the question. And I hope some of you guys found some of this video a little interesting. And that's all I got to say for today. Verdier out.